He didn't say a word when I brought it up, just stirred his coffee twice, blinked slowly, and nodded like I'd asked him what groceries we needed. Maybe we'd both be happier seeing other people, I said, watching for any twitch, any crack. Nothing. Not even Todlek. He kissed my forehead, grabbed his keys, and walked out. No questions, no fight. Like I'd told him I was working late, not tearing our marriage in half. At first, I thought he was just stunned, processing. That was his thing, slow to react, always thinking 5 steps ahead. I took the silence as space, maybe even approval. I called Lana before noon, bubbling with adrenaline. He didn't even flinch, I said, pacing the kitchen with a stupid grin, like he knew this was coming, like maybe he wants it too. She laughed, then cheers to the new you. That Friday, I packed a small overnight bag, tossed in the new black bikini, the one with the gold clasps he once said looked too much like bait. I left a soft goodbye note, not really for him, more for the idea of us. Be good to yourself this weekend. I'm just giving us a little air. If you're still listening and any of this feels uncomfortably familiar, hit like and subscribe. Most people just listen in silence, but that one click tells the team these stories matter. It felt delicious, that first taste of freedom. Elise had a cabin rental 2 hours north, complete with a hot tub and an honor bar. Grace was already there, sun-dazed and smiling. Nora brought gin and dice for drinking games. I showed up with a bottle of champagne, my wedding ring in the glove box, and a head full of what-ifs. No one asked too many questions. That was the beauty of girlfriends. No guilt, no judgment, just raised eyebrows and cheers. The first night blurred in music and steam and flashes of skin. At some point, someone, I think Lana, said, "You're glowing, Lisa." And I was. For the first time in months, I felt seen, not needed, not depended on, just noticed. I checked my phone around midnight. No messages, not even a "where are you?" His silence had shape by then, not cold, not cruel, just there, like a wall I hadn't realized he'd built behind my back. The next morning, I texted him a picture of the lake. "Hope you're relaxing too." No reply, not even the dots. I shrugged it off and poured another mimosa. Sunday came with a slow ache in my temples and a burn on my shoulders from too much sun. I made the drive home with my window down and my ring back on my finger. I even rehearsed a joke about researching what freedom feels like. But when I walked in, something was wrong. The quiet was too clean. My coat wasn't where I'd left it. My favorite ceramic bowl, the one he always hated, was gone. So was his coat, his boots, the charger by the nightstand. The safe in the closet had been opened, closed, and locked again. I dropped my bag and opened the dresser. His drawers? Empty, not messy, empty. "No," I said aloud, like that would stop it from being real. I opened the laundry bin. Only my clothes. I called him. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Same thing. I sat down at the edge of the bed, suddenly aware of every small absence, the way the house didn't hum with his presence, the way the kitchen still smelled like lavender cleaner, but not him. And there, on the bedside table, was the little glass tray where we both used to toss our rings. His spot was bare. Mine sat lonely and crooked. I stared at it for minutes before picking it up. In the first group chat of the week, I played it cool. "He's just being dramatic," I typed, probably off sulking at his brothers. Nobody asked further. By Wednesday, I tried calling his mother. She hadn't heard from him, or so she said. On Friday, a letter arrived, not a handwritten one. A formal, typed notice, reassignment of mortgage, trust separation, escrow documents, and something about severance of joint ownership in a business I hadn't even remembered he co-founded. His signature was clean, dated the day before I left for the weekend. I reread that line 3 times. I'd opened the door, but I hadn't noticed him walking out. There was a time I would have asked for his opinion before making any major decision. A time when I'd walk into the kitchen, spinning scenarios out loud, waiting for him to add a thread or unwind mine. But in the weeks leading up to that weekend, something in him had changed, or maybe it had been changing for a while, and I'd just been too busy narrating my own freedom to notice his silence was a sentence of its own. The morning after I came back from Elise's cabin, I called his office to ask if he'd left anything behind. "Mr. Dyer resigned last Thursday," the receptionist said. I blinked. "I'm sorry. What?" She repeated it. word for word, and then hung up. That's when the pit opened in my stomach. I logged into our joint bank account, or tried to. Password didn't work. I reset it. The balance was lower, not empty, just lighter, like someone had swept the floor but left the crumbs. I checked again the next morning. The rest was gone. Still, I told myself it was fine. Maybe a reset. Maybe he just needed to go somewhere and think. It wasn't the first time I'd pushed too far, too fast. I'd always been the one to run ahead and expect him to follow. But this time, I couldn't even see his footprints behind me. The mortgage company called that Wednesday. "We finalized the title update," they said. I had no idea what they meant until I read the email. He'd signed off his portion of the property. I was now sole owner, which meant sole payer. My jaw clenched. I messaged him. "Can we talk?" No reply. The next day I called Nora. "Do you think he's just trying to scare me?" I asked. She was quiet for a moment, then she said something that stuck. "Lisa, I think you thought you were the only one making moves." I went to the office hoping to talk to someone who knew what was happening. HR handed me a white envelope. "He asked us to give you this if you came by." Inside were a few keys, his desk, our home, his car, and a copy of a notarized document assigning his company shares into something called the Dyer Legacy Trust, dated 2 weeks prior. The line that hit hardest was handwritten in the margin, effective immediately, no longer joint. I walked out into the parking lot, sat in my car, and just stared at the dashboard. For 20 minutes, I didn't move, didn't cry, couldn't. The air felt too thick, like I was sitting in a life that had been edited without my consent. That weekend, Elise texted asking if I was okay. "You've been quiet," I replied. "Yeah, just thinking, a lot going on." She sent a heart. I stared at it for a while before locking my phone. That night, I opened our wedding photo album. Not to cry, just to try to understand what he saw, what he had known that I didn't. In every picture, I looked radiant. He looked steady, solid, present. And now, he was simply gone. Gone without rage, gone without mess. I checked his location history out of desperation. Nothing. The last ping was from a highway toll 5 days ago. Then the trail vanished. It hit me then. He hadn't been reacting. He'd been preparing. His departure wasn't an act of abandonment. It was execution, clean, controlled, complete. The first thing I noticed was the sound, or rather, the absence of it. No hum of his electric razor from the bathroom. No soft shuffle of his shoes kicked off by the door. Just quiet. Clean, polished, deliberate quiet. I rolled my suitcase into the living room, still wearing sunglasses, still tasting lake water on my lips, and dropped my bag with a dramatic sigh. Home sweet. But the words thinned out. Something was off. His boots weren't by the door. His jacket wasn't hanging on the hook. The tray where he always dropped his keys and coins was empty, wiped. The air smelled like lemon oil and nothing else. It should have comforted me. Instead, it unsettled me. I walked to the bedroom and opened his dresser drawer. Empty. Neatly so, not like he'd packed in a fury, but like he'd removed himself with intention. Like this had been in motion long before my weekend away. I texted Grace. He took a little staycation while I was gone, apparently. It left me with the whole house. She replied with a laughing emoji, and maybe he needed space too. Win-win. I played along. Replied with, maybe he's finally catching up with his brother or fishing. The truth was, I didn't know. By Tuesday, I started opening closets. Not just glancing, searching. His suits, gone. Gym bag, gone. The drawer where he kept old tax returns and warranties, empty. Even the garage looked different. Tools reorganized, some missing. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and curled up on the couch with the blanket we once fought over at IKEA. I laughed alone, then stopped. The silence didn't just feel empty. It felt pointed. I sent a message to our group chat. He's really committing to this vanishing act. Maybe I should throw a freedom from husband party. Nora gave it a ha-ha. Elise asked, wait, he still hasn't called you. I typed, he's probably sulking. He'll come around. But I didn't send it. I stared at the screen until it went dark. By Thursday, my own lawyer called. not for a meeting, but with a short, clipped update. Per filed documents, your husband has relinquished all ownership of the property. Title transfer is complete. What does that mean? I asked, sitting down hard on the kitchen stool. It means the house is now solely in your name, along with the mortgage, the debt, all of it. The floor didn't shift beneath me, but something in my chest did. A wobble. Wait, he didn't tell me any of this. That's between you and him, she said, but legally, it's done. I hung up without replying, just stared at the tile floor, suddenly aware that I'd have to patch the roof next spring, that the water heater had been making noise, that the tax bill came in November and I hadn't read it last year because he always handled it. I tried calling again. His number gave a sterile message. This line is no longer in service. I emailed. No reply. I messaged his sister. Hey, is he okay? Just haven't heard from him. She saw it. Didn't answer. I walked through the house that night like it belonged to someone else. Every photo frame mocked me. The trip to Maine, his old college hoodie I used to steal, the tiny scratch on the wall where the piano bench once nicked it, he'd promised to fix that. I always nagged him. I slept in the middle of the bed that night, wide open, cold. The next morning I made coffee and poured 2 mugs, out of habit. One sat untouched. I snapped a photo and almost sent it to him, with a message like, still making yours just how you like it, but I didn't because somewhere between him vanishing and me pretending not to care, I felt it. Not guilt, not grief, just that echo. The echo of someone who'd been quiet too long until he wasn't there at all. They came with candles and comfort food just like always. Elise brought Thai takeout, Grace had a bottle of rosé, and Nora showed up with a bath bomb that smelled like eucalyptus and expensive apologies. Lana was late, but she came, and that mattered. The first girls' night back, I played the part. I wore soft clothes and put on a playlist called Healing Era. I even had a blanket over my knees, and my phone flipped upside down, like I wasn't waiting for his name to appear. We lit incense. We toasted to liberation. They cheered when I joked that he'd finally run out of battery like a cold appliance. I laughed too loudly, too long, but even then I noticed it, the glances between them when I said certain things. The way Elise tilted her head, like she was waiting for the punchline that never came. He's just playing games, I said, opening my second glass. He wants me to come crawling. Mm-hmm, Grace replied, but she wasn't looking at me. She was scrolling her phone quietly, her face unreadable. By the third get-together, something had shifted. They still showed up, but their tone softened in a way I couldn't name. Not toward me, toward him. Was he always that quiet? Nora asked once between bites of Pad See You. I blinked. He's just not confrontational. I shrugged. He bottles things up. But he listened, though, Lana said from the edge of the couch. That's rare. The room paused. No one added anything. I changed the subject. After that night, Elise didn't text as much. Not the way she used to. She replied with emojis, double taps. She missed one brunch, then 2, and then one evening I saw her name on my missed calls. But the call hadn't been to me. It was a shared photo in our group chat, a weird glitch that exposed her screen. His name was at the top. I stared at it for too long, then locked my phone. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe she reached out for closure. Maybe she was trying to get him to come to his senses. Elise was the fixer, the peacemaker. But the next week, she didn't come to girls' night. The week after that, neither did Nora. When Grace arrived alone, she didn't bring wine. She looked tired. Everything okay? I asked. She hesitated. Just a lot on my mind. I pressed. Is something going on? She looked up, then back down. Lisa, I think maybe he didn't just leave. I think maybe he planned it. The word planned rang colder than I expected. He ghosted me, I reminded her. Or maybe he just stopped playing a role that didn't fit anymore, she said. I stared at her. Whose side are you on? She didn't answer. Just gathered her purse and stood. Maybe we all picked sides before we knew what story we were in. After she left, I sat alone in the flickering candlelight, surrounded by half-eaten noodles and empty cushions. I scrolled through my own texts, hunting for cracks. Elise had gone silent. Nora only responded with delays. Grace's messages had become neutral, non-committal. Lana hadn't answered at all in 3 days. The women who once helped me scream into the void were now speaking in softer tones. Or not at all. One by one, they were pulling away. I told myself it was just life, busy schedules, new jobs, family stuff. But I knew better, because when Elise finally did reach out, it wasn't with comfort, it was with hesitation. "Hey, I just wanted to ask, are you okay?" And the moment I saw it, I knew she wasn't asking as a friend anymore. She was asking as someone who'd seen something in him I forgot to protect. The first message came late, past midnight, from Elise. It was careful, 3 lines. "I know this is weird. I just wanted to say you didn't deserve the way it happened, that's all. You were always kind, even when Lisa wasn't watching." I didn't reply, not right away. I sat with it, let it breathe, let her wonder. 2 days later, Nora bumped into me outside a cafe on 6th. She was with her niece, I think, or maybe just borrowing a friend's kid for the afternoon. She smiled awkwardly, waved like she hadn't expected to see me. I nodded, calm. She paused. "You doing okay?" she asked. I said, "I'm at peace." She didn't say anything for a second, just nodded, then added, "That's rare." Another day, another message, this time from Grace. No preamble, just, "Can I ask you something?" No judgment. Promise. She never asked the question. But a week later, she showed up to the bookstore where I'd been spending my evenings. Said she just happened to be there, browsed the same aisle twice, fiction, then essays, then nothing. She finally sat across from me. Her drink was untouched, mine was half empty. "You always listened," she said. I waited, even when no one was saying anything out loud. I still didn't speak. She added, "We thought we were helping her, but maybe we were feeding her delusion." Still, I didn't reply. She looked at me. "Can I tell you something without it meaning anything?" I nodded. "When I was with you that one time at the cabin, when we all went, years ago, I remember how you handed Elise her towel without looking. You just knew she needed one. Lisa was off taking pictures of herself in the mirror, but you saw the moment. That stuck with me. It was the smallest thing. A towel, a gesture, forgotten by everyone else. Except not." Later, Lana wrote, "Is it strange that I feel safer talking to you than anyone else?" I wrote back, "Maybe it's not strange. Maybe it's overdue." She didn't reply right away, but 2 nights later she sent a voice message, 42 seconds long. Breath shaky, voice low. She said, "I always admired how quiet you were. Not the awkward kind of quiet, the kind that doesn't ask to be loved, the kind that just is." I didn't play it again. Didn't need to. When Elise finally invited me for coffee, it wasn't at a trendy place, just a small corner cafe she used to go to with Lisa back when they were closer. She picked it on purpose. I could feel that. She ordered tea, I ordered nothing. She said she used to make everything about her. I didn't interrupt. She looked down, then up. "How long did you feel invisible?" I could have said years. I could have recounted moments she'd laughed over my thoughts, rolled her eyes at my ideas, brushed past the parts of me that were tender and cautious. But I didn't. I just smiled quietly. Let her find the answer in the space I left unspoken. Because here's what none of them understood until now. I didn't need to argue or prove or reclaim anything. I just had to stop explaining myself to someone who only heard herself. And the moment I did, that's when they finally started listening. At first, it was small things. A photo on Nora's story, balloons, cake, soft lighting, 4 glasses clinking, a caption that read, "To old souls and new beginnings." No tags, no location, just familiar voices behind the camera. Her voice wasn't one of them. She scrolled past it the first time, then back, watched it again, listening. Elise's laugh. Grace humming something off key. Lana saying, "He always remembers." She replayed that part 3 times. The next morning she texted Nora. Whose birthday was that? Nora replied, "Just a friend's thing, low key, you okay?" No mention of him, no invitation, no offer to meet up later. She scrolled Elise's feed, a new post from the night before. "The silence you gave me taught me how to listen." It made her stomach knot. She recognized the line, word for word. She'd said it once, years ago, during a fight with him that ended with her slamming the bedroom door. He'd stayed silent. She'd posted that phrase to make herself feel wise, evolved. Elise had liked it back then. Now she was using it herself. She paced the kitchen with her phone in hand, opening and closing the fridge without purpose. Later that day, Grace showed up to brunch in a soft, dark green jacket, leather, broken in. Lisa had bought it for him years ago. He'd hated it, called it too soft for a hard world. She never saw him wear it, but there it was, draped over Grace's shoulders. She didn't mention it, neither did Grace. Afterward, Lisa sat in her car for 10 minutes, hands on the wheel, keys unmoved. She messaged Lana. Was that his jacket? Lana replied with a thumbs up emoji, mocking or indifferent. She couldn't tell. Later, Elise posted a quote, "If you never felt seen, maybe you weren't the problem. Maybe they never looked." Lisa didn't like it. She stared at the screen until the words blurred. She tried calling him again that night. No answer. She tried messaging Grace directly. "Have you talked to him?" Grace replied, "Just once or twice. He seems settled." That was worse than any confirmation. Settled. As if he'd already unpacked a version of life that didn't include her. The woman who once fought for open doors, for fluid chapters, now found herself pacing hallways, refreshing apps, scanning every shadow of a post for clues. Her friends were shrinking away, not in distance, but in access, in loyalty, in truth. She posted something vague, trying to reclaim narrative. Funny how people forget who held them through their worst. Only 3 of them liked it. One was her cousin. The others were strangers. The group chat was quieter now. Elise hadn't replied in days. Nora read her last message but didn't respond. Lana's icon was gray. Her fingers hovered over her phone constantly, at red lights, in line at the store, during meetings. She caught herself refreshing Instagram without knowing why. Every ding jolted her, every silence stretched. It wasn't just fear of losing him anymore, it was the terror that she already had, and that the women she trusted had walked gently into the very silence she once created, and stayed there, willingly. She wasn't looking for freedom anymore. She was looking for evidence. The knock came after midnight. Not a pounding, not a buzz, just 3 soft, uneven raps against the door, like she was hoping no one would answer, and terrified someone might. I opened it without a word. She stood there, soaked from the rain, mascara smudged beneath her eyes, the kind of mess she used to call emotional performance when other people did it. She wasn't wearing a jacket, just a hoodie I hadn't seen in a year, and leggings that clung to her knees like they were holding her up. I stepped aside. She walked in like it hurt her to do it. The apartment was quiet, dim lamp on, a record playing something soft and slow in the background, the kind of music she used to call sad people with acoustic guitars. She looked around like she expected someone else to be there, someone hiding behind the counter or slipping down the hallway. She turned back to me, jaw clenched. "Are you sleeping with my friends?" she asked. No build-up. Just the blade. I didn't answer. She swayed on her feet, her breath shallow, unsteady, her arms crossed tight across her ribs like they were holding her in place. She looked small, uncertain. I walked into the kitchen and put the kettle on. She followed, slowly, eyes scanning everything. The shelf above the desk caught her attention first. 4 frames, not large, not flashy, just enough. In one, Elise stood beside me, both of us laughing mid-shot, her hand resting gently on my shoulder. In another, Grace was at the lakeside, wind pulling her hair sideways, the jacket still zipped up to her chin. The third was Nora and me, seated in a quiet corner of a cafe, both with notebooks open. Matching pens, concentration on our faces. The last, Lana. A blurry shot from some evening downtown. She was smiling. Not staged, just present. Present in a way Lisa hadn't been in years. Lisa stared at them like they'd appeared out of nowhere, like ghosts she'd buried coming back with color. "I asked you a question," she said, voice tight. I placed a mug on the table in front of her. Chamomile. She always hated it. She didn't touch it, just stared. I sat across from her, calm, waiting. The silence pressed against her like humidity, heavy, thick. She tried again, softer this time. Was it revenge? Still, I didn't speak. Her eyes darted from photo to photo. "You were never this man with me." I tilted my head. "No," I said. "I wasn't." She swallowed hard. "Why them?" I didn't answer. She gripped the edge of the table. Was any of it even real with us? I looked at her fully for the first time that night. Her pupils were wide, but not with love, with loss. Not of me, but of her grip. She stood up abruptly, pushing the chair back too hard. It scraped, loud. Her voice cracked. You're different. You're cold. I didn't flinch. I'm quiet. That's different. She laughed, a sound too sharp to be real. They don't know you like I do. I nodded once. You're right. They don't. She moved toward the shelf, hovered a hand near one frame, then stopped, fingers shaking. Is this some kind of message? She asked. I glanced at the photos. No, they just asked to take them. Her face twisted. You didn't chase me, she whispered. You let me walk. I leaned back in the chair, let that hang. She shook her head, biting her lip. I thought this was temporary. I thought you'd need time. I said nothing. The record reached its end with a soft pop. She looked at me one last time, like she might still have something to say that would rewind the tape. But there was nothing left. She left the tea untouched, and the door closed behind her with the weight of a truth she'd tried too long to rewrite. She came again the next evening, this time without the trembling or the tears. No hoodie, no mascara smears. Her hair was pinned, and she wore that slate gray coat I'd bought her for her first promotion. The one she used to say made her feel like a woman with somewhere important to be. I let her in without a word. She stepped across the threshold like it was a courtroom. I need clarity, she said, standing in the center of the room like she was afraid to touch anything. Last night, it didn't settle anything. I walked past her, opened the drawer by the desk, and took out a slim folder. No theatrics, no build-up, just paper, weightless and final. I laid it on the table. She didn't move. What's that? I pulled out the top sheet and slid it toward her. She stared, her own handwriting, slanted initials, date at the bottom, a soft blue notary stamp still visible, though a little smudged from the photocopy. She blinked. You made a contract? She asked, but her voice lacked venom. You drafted it, I said quietly. She frowned. That was a joke. We weren't serious. It was notarized, filed. You had it typed by your paralegal friend, remember? Her lips parted, then closed again. I watched the memory strike. Her laughing on the back patio with a glass of wine, waving the document like a feminist manifesto. Let's keep it modern, she'd said. I pulled out the second page. This one wasn't legal. Just a plain sheet of paper. A list. No names, just timestamps. She leaned forward. 7:42 p.m., Elise 3:03 p.m., Nora 10:15 a.m., Grace 1:22 a.m., Lana. She read them twice. The lines were spaced evenly, no flourish, just records of presence. That's all they were. At the bottom, I'd written one sentence. You opened the door. They walked through it. She blinked once, twice. Her fingers clenched the edge of the table like she needed something solid. You kept records? I met her eyes. I kept silence. Her throat moved. She looked back at the list like she might find a loophole, a missing entry, some contradiction she could tear into. They wouldn't, all of them, she whispered. I stayed silent. She stepped back. Her hand brushed the side of her coat. She didn't sit. She didn't speak. Her chest rose once, hard, like she was preparing to scream, but no sound came. You did this to punish me. I shook my head. I did nothing you didn't make possible. She looked down at the paper again, this time longer. I didn't think you'd ever, she started. I know, I said. Her mouth stayed open, searching for what she meant, what she regretted, what she thought she could still explain. Why them? She asked again, softer this time. I didn't answer. There was no answer she wanted to hear. I thought we were experimenting, she whispered. You were, I said. I was adapting. She folded the paper once, then again. Her fingers fumbled, but she folded it neatly, precise, controlled, her way of staying composed, of holding the last thread of self-respect. You could have just left. I looked at her. I did. She nodded, or tried to. Then she left. She didn't take the folder, just the paper she'd signed, and the list she never expected to read. The door clicked shut with less sound than her breathing. No shouting, no glass shattering, just the quiet wreckage of realization. She wanted clarity. She got the truth. She tried to claw her way back in gently at first. A comment under Grace's photo. Miss this crew. Left unanswered. A text to Elise. Thinking of you. Hope all is well. Read. Never replied. She sent Nora a podcast link about healing friendships. Then one of those long rambling apologies disguised as a casual check-in. She waited all day. Nothing came back. That Sunday they all went to brunch. She only knew because Lana, never one for subtlety, posted a photo. 4 flutes raised in toast, their faces relaxed, unbothered. Elise leaned comfortably into someone's shoulder, my shoulder. You couldn't see my face, just the outline of my jaw and the edge of a navy sweater she'd given me years ago. It still fit. She tried to laugh it off when a coworker mentioned it in the break room. Guess they needed a new mascot, she joked, stirring her coffee too hard. The spoon clanged, but it stung. It kept stinging, because they hadn't just stopped defending her, they'd stopped including her. They weren't angry. They weren't loud. They just moved on. Elise moved in first, no grand gesture. She brought a single suitcase and a stack of books. Said she'd only stay a week while her lease ended. She stayed longer. She never once asked for promises, and I never once offered any, but the silence between us was full of comfort, not weight. She cooked without asking what I wanted. She knew. That was the difference. Nora showed up one evening with a folder of ideas, marketing angles, brand pillars. She'd been sitting on them for years while managing budgets that boxed her in. You got the calm, she said. I've got the teeth. We registered the LLC that night. Grace came later. She didn't knock. Just walked into the office one morning with a manila envelope and a list of names. I've got investors. They trust me. She pointed at me. I trust you. That's enough. We shook hands like partners. No one said anything about what used to be. And Lana? Lana was always a little harder to read. She didn't reach out like the others. Didn't offer strategy or paperwork. She just lingered. A glance across a room. A quiet smile when no one else was watching. One night, we all sat around the table. No wine, no photos, just soft conversation and candlelight. Elise laughed at something Nora said. Grace leaned in to add her own punchline, and across from me, Lana rested her chin on her hand and looked at me like she'd found the center of the room. That smile stayed a little longer than it needed to. Lisa tried calling that night. Twice, I didn't answer. The next morning, she messaged Elise directly. What did I do to deserve this? Elise read it, then muted the conversation. She asked Grace, was it ever about me? Grace replied, it was, until it wasn't. Nora didn't reply at all. Lana simply blocked her. Lisa watched it all in real time. The shift, the unraveling. They hadn't stolen anything from her. They just made a different choice. And this time, she wasn't in the circle. She was outside of it, watching. Not because I tried to replace her, but because the very thing she'd dismissed, the quiet, the stillness, the listening, was exactly what made them stay. It happened in the middle of a grocery store of all places. Months had passed. Seasons turned. The startup was growing. Elise had taken a teaching offer out of state. Nora was overseeing ops. Grace handled investor calls like she was born for it. And Lana, well, Lana still lingered. Even in motion, she always lingered. And then there she was, Lisa, by the produce section, wearing that rust-colored trench coat she used to insist made her feel cinematic. Her hair was longer, curled at the ends in a way she once swore didn't suit her. She looked thinner, worn, but still trying to shine. I saw her first, thought about turning down a different aisle, but she saw me. Her cart stalled. She stepped toward me like someone unsure if they were dreaming. Hey, she said, voice just above a whisper. I nodded once, didn't stop walking. She stepped directly in front of me, blocking the cart with her hip. Don't, she said, please, just give me a second. I stopped, gave her exactly that, a second. She hesitated, then, with a kind of desperate gentleness, asked, why them? Why all of them? I held her gaze. I wanted to look away, but not out of guilt, out of mercy. Her eyes were glossy, but not with rage. This wasn't a tantrum. It was a woman standing in the rubble of her own certainty, realizing the walls didn't fall on her. They opened, and I didn't wait inside. I said nothing for a moment, then I spoke, calm as breath. Because you never asked me if I wanted to open anything. She flinched. I continued. You just unlocked the door and assumed I'd never walk through it. She looked like she wanted to argue, wanted to scream or cry or collapse, but instead she just stood there, frozen between the citrus and the carrots. I stepped past her, pushed my cart forward. No cruelty in my stride, no heat in my chest, just closure. Behind me, she didn't follow, didn't call after me. And in that silence, the same kind she once used like a blade, I left her. Not because I hated her, because she never listened, and I finally stopped explaining,